Hi, in this video I'm going to demonstrate the installation of the BimmerTech audio system in a 2008 BMW E90. We have the audio system, which is a new amp right here. It's a pretty simple install. It's going to replace the factory amp. It's located under here in the trunk. Basically, we're just going to be removing or pulling the liner panel out enough to give us access, pulling the old amp out, installing this. It's completely plug and play. It's very simple install. Alright, the tools we're going to use, we need an 8mm socket with an extension, a 10mm socket, Phillips screwdriver, a Torx T40, and a flathead screwdriver. Optionally, you could use a trim tool to remove the trim fasteners. It's highly recommended. However, for this video, I'm just going to use a standard flathead screwdriver. Now, to get started, first we're going to remove this panel here that gives access to the brake light bulbs. It just snaps in, so you just pull. And we're going to pull up the plastic cover here. Now you can see the factory amp right there. To get full access to it, we're going to have to move this liner panel outward to give us access to the bolts there. To do that, first we're going to remove this plastic, this hard plastic piece here. Right here and here, use your flathead screwdriver to pop up the cover here. It removes. Then you've got a Phillips screw there and there. On the inside, you have 4 of the plastic trim retainers. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll give you a better view here in just a moment and show you how to remove those. Alright, for the plastic piece on the center of the trunk, we've got 4 of these retainers here. We've got 1, 2 on the left and 2 on the right. Now I'm going to show you how to remove one of these. You can kind of get a flatbed screwdriver and gradually pull up the center post from all sides. These, unlike a lot of the other trim pieces in the car, are very hard plastic and they may become brittle. Once you pull the center out all the way, then you should be able to pull. Sometimes the center will come all the way out. Then you just lightly pull the base part out. Alright, I've got all 4 of the trim retainers on the inside of the trunk liner off. I'm going to remove the last of the Phillips screw. And I already have this one. I've already removed the screw out of that. Now keep in mind, for reinstallation, this gasket right here, you're going to want to make sure it goes on top of the lip of the plastic part. Now once you get the fasteners out, and from the inside bottom part, kind of pull inward, and it kind of pulls out. Now here is the trunk cargo hook right there, is where we're going to use our T40 Torx to remove the plastic trim plate that's surrounding the hook. That's so that when we pull the liner out, it won't quite bind as we pull it. Now when we do pull the liner, we're not going to remove the liner. We're going to leave it kept in that spot. If you have fold-down rear seats, it may be possible to easily completely remove the liner. However, I'm not going to, because it may be difficult to put it back into that spot. And this plastic piece just pops up and down. Now for the trunk liner, there's 3 trim fasteners. They come out the same manner as the ones of the plastic trim panel. Get your flathead screwdriver or trim tool, which is recommended, and pull out the center post of the plastic retainer. And when the center post is either out or almost all the way out, the rest of the clip can come out. Now there's one here, here, and here. I've already removed the other 2 for the sake of time. Now the trim liner is now loose. You can see it's going to move inward. And since we removed that trim around the trunk hook, you've got a little bit more flexibility there. Now I'm not going to pull this trunk liner all the way completely out, because one, I don't know if it's fastened in there, and I don't really want to find out because it can be a little bit difficult to get the formed panel trunk liner back into that spot since my back seats don't fold down. I'm just going to simply move it out just enough for me to get access to the amp here. Alright, here we have the factory amp. To remove it, you've got 4 bolts. They're 8 millimeters. Right here, down here, back here, and here. And so I'm going to go ahead and get these. I've already got them loosened up. Second one, which is down here, which you'll need an extension for. We've got the third one here. And then the fourth one here. All right, now the amp in its bracket just comes straight out, and you have to unplug the factory connector. It's kind of hard to see, but there is a little lever, and there's a little push tab. You push on that tab, slide the lever down, and the harness pops out. It should be self-explanatory once you see it. Now that we have the factory amp removed, we're going to reuse the factory bracket with the new BimmerTech audio system. To remove the factory amp from the bracket, there's two 10 millimeter nuts and one 10 millimeter bolt. Now we have the new amp here. First, if it's not already installed, make sure the other 2 plugs of the harness are plugged into the amp. Also, a USB cable supplied. Now this USB cable is for connecting to your computer to do custom tunes. It's not necessary that you do that. It will come pre-tuned. Tune files for your car is going to become pre-installed. But if you ever want to, now is a good time to install the USB cable. You'll have easy access to it from when everything's put back together, but it might be a little bit difficult to plug it in once everything's reinstalled. USB port on the side here, and go ahead and just pop it in. Now, the custom bracket is meant to go into the factory bracket. You can see there's a little tab there that goes into the tab location of the factory bracket. It slides in like such. You can see the holes line up right there, and one of the 8 millimeter bolts you'll put through there. Now, the factory bracket does come with a piece of double-sided tape pre-installed. Now, I will not do it here for the demonstration, but peel back the plastic on that, get it lined up perfectly, making sure that hole's aligned, and you can stick it together, and that keeps, one, it'll help during the installation, it'll help keep your brackets aligned, and also it'll help reduce vibration. Now, once we have this together as a unit, we're going to reinstall it back into location using the 4 8 millimeter bolts that we removed. The 10 millimeter ones that we removed, the 2 nuts and the bolts, for the factory one, we will not be reusing those. Alright, once you get that started, go ahead and get the other 3 started, but I recommend not tightening them down until you get them all 4 started, because you might have some alignment issues and it may make it a little bit more difficult. You can go ahead and get this other rear one started. Okay, now we've got the 2 rear ones. We got the one here, and then the one down here. You're definitely going to need your extension for this one. Alright, now that I've got all 4 started, I'm going to go ahead and tighten them back up. Alrighty, I have all 4 8 millimeter screws tightened. Now, you just got to plug in the plug-and-play harness. It's super easy. You got your factory, you've got the BimmerTech harness. Get it aligned the correct direction. Push it in all the way. You have this locking lever. Pull it upwards until it snaps. And you can see, as we couldn't see before when we removed and unplugged the harness from the factory amp, now you can see there's a little square locking button. You push that button and you push this lever down, and that's what releases the harness. Now, the harness is just kind of going to be tucked away, as well as your USB cable. I'm just going to leave it right there because we'll have access to it through that plastic cover within the trunk once the liner is reinstalled. Alright, now we're going to put the liner back. Just kind of push it back in place. Get the wires tucked away. Make sure it goes under the weather stripping there. And we have our 3 push clips. Make sure the center post is either completely out or almost all the way out. Stick the base in completely before you push the center post in to lock it. Now we'll put the plastic trim piece back around the cargo hook. It's got a little tab on the top. You're gonna have to thread it in the middle of the hook. That tab up, and it goes into place. Now when you're doing that, make sure, and I guess make sure before you put your trim tabs back in, make sure that the liner is back into place between the seat and the trunk wall. Then we'll get our Torx T40. Now we have this plastic trim piece here, and as I mentioned at the beginning, the lip here, we got to make sure it gets underneath the weather stripping. So now is a good time to kind of push the top of it in first, and then we're going to push the bottom of it back toward the rear. So we're going to get this underneath. You may have to run your finger underneath that weather stripping to get it pulled out completely. And all the way on top of that plastic part. Looks like we've got it. And the bottom just kind of snaps toward the rear. It will self-align. Now, as we did with the other trim pieces, first put the base in to the hole, push it in all the way, and then get the post, and then push it in real good with your thumb. We're going to do that for all 4 of these. Then we have our Phillips screw. It goes here, and then on the opposite one here. And then the little trim piece that covers the Phillips screw hole, the tab that sticks out goes toward the rear of the car, as it was originally, and just snaps on. Now, the final steps of installation: get our cover piece for brake light access, snap it back into place on the trunk liner, and here's the cover for the amp. Now, as you notice, we've got our USB cable, easy access for if you ever want to plug it into your computer to do a custom tune. And this just snaps on, and then all I have to do is put the trunk floor liner in and enjoy your new BimmerTech sound system.